Hello, and welcome back to Let's Talk Chicago Bears. Okay, the last two shows, when I went back and I was listening, sometimes I just listen to make sure the sound works. As we all know, I had a snafu 3 to 4 weeks ago where I taped a whole show without any sound. So we don't want that to happen again. But I realized I was sounding like Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello, and welcome back to Let's Talk Chicago Bears. And I'm like, Lynn, you're not Mrs. Doubtfire, for crying out sake. You're doing a football show. So I thought that was kind of funny. So, which funny we need today after that debacle last night in L.A. So we all know the score was 34-14, and it was bad. There was some positives, I will tell you, and I'm going to talk about those positives right now. And then we'll get into kind of the bad and this and that. But, yeah, it's not the way you want to start out your first game. But remember, best defense in the league last year, and they showed it. But you know what? The Bears had a chance early on. So let's talk about some of the things. So let's talk about the offense. You know, everybody's, Justin Fields. Well, Andy Dalton didn't really do that bad. I knew he threw an interception, but that was tipped. Had that not been tipped, I believe Mr. Mooney would have gotten there. My son and I argue about this, but as soon as the ball was tipped, Mooney was looking to try to, and he didn't run his full route then. And so I believe it was either going to be dropped or caught by the Bears had it not been tipped. And so we'll talk about that, though. So, but the offense, let's talk about the Bears' offense here. There were some positives in this losing event, believe it or not. They had 322 total yards, which is not bad for the Bears opening day. I'm just saying. And Matt Nagy, by the way. Dalton had 188 yards passing. And unfortunately, he had one interception, which we talked about, the tip, and we're going to talk about that more. We had a total yards of 134 rushing, which was great. And our time of possession, we beat, and in those other categories, the total yards offense were very close. They were only like 30 yards difference, I think, between us and the Rams offensively. And time of possession, which I mentioned on Friday, was very important because the longer the Bears offense is on the field, the shortest their defense is on the field, which had they not had the time, they won the time of possession. They held the time of possession over 35 minutes to 24 minutes to the Rams. So that did keep the defense off the field more. So the score probably would have been higher for Rams if the Bears hadn't been offensively been on the field more. So see how important that is? I'm just pointing that out. And my other bugaboo that I talk about every week, and the Bears did it, was penalties. And penalties, I say if you have 5 or less, you have a good chance that's going to help you win your game. The Bears only had 3 for 35 yards, which is really good, right? And the Bears had 24 first downs opposed to the Rams 18. So they were moving the ball. But then you know what? Then Nagy would call a stupid-ass play, and it was like, really, Nagy? You're really doing that? Oh, my God. His play calling was atrocious. What is going on here? I'm sorry. I'm having a little snafu. Sorry about that. And you know what? He throws some good ones, and then they're bad. These behind-the-line passes are ridiculous. It really pisses me off. It really does. So we're going to get back to what the good things. So there was some really good things there. Montgomery had 108 yards, which is awesome. And in my opinion, he should be handed the ball all the time. That other guy who was in there, Goodson, not so good. And it's like, just keep Montgomery in there. He's young. Jesus, Walter Payton, he would carry the ball. I don't know how many. That's why he got so many yards, because he was the only offense the Bears had in the 70s for a while. And pretty much, so he ran. Keep giving him the ball. Nagy, what's wrong with that? Make the other team stop Montgomery. Then you can go to the passes. And then if you keep running the ball successfully, it opens up the passing game. Duh. God, that's like 101 football. But there were these positives that I saw that I just read to you. And basically, in a lot of these categories, you just heard. And you know what? To me, in a loss, these things are the cherry on top of the game. And so there was those bright spots. But they had 2 turnovers. And the one we know, the turnover came as the Bears, their first drive down the field. They drove all the way down the field after a good run back, kickoff return by number 24, Herbert, which I talked to you guys about last week. And he got us to like the 50-yard line and then 40-yard line. And then Montgomery had a big long run, which was awesome. And then we got down there to the 5-yard line, and we got a penalty, which pushed us back 5. And then he threw the interception. The ball was tipped, and I truly believe had it not been tipped, it would have been dropped or caught by the Bears. But my point is here, though, is the penalty. Had we not had that penalty on the play before, you don't know what could happen. Maybe they call a different play. They don't call that play, and it doesn't get tipped, and it doesn't get interception. Or they call that play, and it works. But the penalties throw you off. The Bears were driving, penalty, interception. So it's just something to think about. Penalties just throw everything off. And so they'll kill you every time, as I've said before. But the Bears, the thing is, the Bears had to make no mistakes last night. And let's face it, they made quite a few on defense, that's for sure. And an interception like that, it's always going to stop it, and it really sucks. So that was the bad thing, that was really, as far as the offensive playing, except for when we're going to talk about the line next, but, I don't know. It was just damn frustrating. But as I said, David Montgomery had 108 yards, and he looked really good. And I say, feed him the ball. Feed him the ball, Nagy. The O-line, not so good. As I was worried about, they did not look good last night. And then we got 2 offensive linemen hurt and out of the game, which does not help. And that just does not help Andy Dalton or Fields, for that matter. They have to have time to throw the ball. And Andy Dalton never had time. So in one breath, I'm bitching at Nagy because he does call stupid ass plays, and then then I got to look at it is, okay, is he calling these stupid ass plays because he can't throw it down the field a bomb because Dalton didn't have time? If you noticed that last night, the line was collapsing around him all the time. It was a miracle he got the ball off for 188 yards, quite honestly. And if you can't set your feet and look around for a second or two, forget it. And so it was a mix of Nagy's stupid play calling, always behind the line. Even if you don't have a lot of time to throw the ball, you could throw a 5-yarder to your great tight ends. Clement, which was awesome last night. I mean, he caught everything thrown at him except for one ball. And use those guys to get your 5 yards instead of throwing behind the line of scrimmage, which gets you nothing. It never works, Nagy. When are you gonna McFly? Hello. Good Lord. And if you didn't know what that reference is, you might be young, you don't know it. It's Back to the Future, the original. The bully was doing Michael J. Fox. So anyways, yes, play calling bad. But I'm wondering when the Bears organization is going to realize Nagy cannot call plays. So remember last year he stopped calling for a while and the play calling got better. And then he goes back to it again this year. What is wrong with that man? Somebody's got to step up and say, this isn't working. And what my real fear is, he's going to mess up Fields too, like he messed up Mitchell Trubisky. I know Mitchell isn't as good as Fields, but he had more potential than Nagy gave him the credit for. Remember, his first season, he was 12-4. Just saying. And it worries me that Nagy's going to mess him up. I think he needs to be fired. But that's not going to happen until the end of the year. So, Nagy, my advice is put your big boy pants on and call some real plays. And I know you're lying, but you know what? Andy can get it down there. Just, let's throw him at least down the field, not behind the line of scrimmage, because it never works. It never works. So, really, okay? The defense was terrible. I mean, the offense made some mistakes, but really that game was lost by the defense. The defense gave up big play after big play after big play, and it was awful. The first one, I thought I was going to have a freaking heart attack. When Detroit, see, Stafford's got me thinking of Detroit. When the Rams, which Stafford is on the Rams now, and Goff is on Detroit. See, I did remember his name this time. If you watched Friday's show, I couldn't seem to get his name out of my mouth, Goff. But first of all, Stafford looks great. I mean, he really, really does. There's no doubt about it. But the first drive, they're driving down the field. He throws a bomb. The guy catches it, on the 15-yard line of the Bears? And he wasn't touched yet. And there was two vets right there. He was in the middle, and these two vets, the Bears, and neither one of those morons touched him. He gets up, and he goes back, and he scores a touchdown. See, if you're not touched in the NFL when you're down, you can get up and score. College, you can't do that, but you could do it in the NFL. I couldn't believe I saw that. That they should be called out in front of the whole team, because that is a damn rookie mistake at best. I wouldn't even blame, rookies, I don't think, would do that. I mean, I know college is different, but these guys were vets, okay? So, very bad. He goes in and scores. Now, if that don't happen, does he get a touchdown? We don't know, right? So, there's a lot of don't knows. Okay, so I got that. All right, I told you that. Sorry. My set is a little different this season, so now I actually print off my notes. I used to have my notes on my computer, but it's just a lot easier to do this. So that was just terrible. I mean, there's no excuse. And the D looked to me old and tired. And I was talking about the tired. Boy, we sure did miss Eddie Goldman last night, did we not? Might have looked a little bit different if Eddie was in there. So they couldn't really run the ball that great, but they could pass it anywhere they wanted. Like that, there was one scoring drive where they were driving, it was, I believe, in the second quarter, and Stafford was going down the field, and there was this guy so wide open, even Stafford couldn't believe it. I think he was laughing as he was throwing the ball to him, and he caught it, and of course went in and scored a touchdown. Or actually, did he make it in? Regardless, they ended up scoring on that drive. So, and I believe they did score a touchdown. So the defense did not look prepared at all. We've got a new defensive coordinator this year, so I don't know. Not looking so good, sir. You know what I mean? They have a lot of work to do before the next game, next Sunday, and I believe they play Cincinnati. And I believe Cincinnati won yesterday. So you got a lot of work. That defense if that's what we're dealing with, we're in trouble. You guys, you can just forget about Fields, because we're not going to win many games, because we have the third toughest schedule in the league, and apparently right now no defense. And they had no turnovers. They didn't even come close to turnovers. And they got one sack, and that was all. They never even got close to him except for that one time. I think one other time, I take that back, one other time Hicks got close to him and a couple of guys, but they didn't get him. And I think that was at the end of the game, okay? So they probably had their reserves in. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, just terrible. And I don't know. When you don't see Bears defenses play that bad. And to be the first game worries me, but yet we have 16 more games to go. So a lot can happen. Now, I know everybody's talking Fields, and we know he scored his first rushing touchdown. And that is awesome. But at the end of the night, everybody, Fields. I don't think Fields could have done any better, and it was probably not a good idea to put him in because that defense was all over our offensive line, and Fields could have gotten hurt. So you do not want to risk that chance. I know everybody's biting at the bit. Fields has got to go in, but Andy Dalton did not lose that game for us last night. I truly believe, even with the interception, that hurt. Do not get me wrong, but it was the defense. Had the defense done their job and gotten the Rams off the field without these big plays, we could have been out there. We already beat them in time of possession, and we had some good stats. It just, it was a combination of Nagy's bad play calling, the offensive line, and then, of course, Dalton didn't have time to throw. But there was, it just gets me so bad. So, that defense, lots of work. I'm really so glad, though, the next 6 games are day games, either the noon games or the 3 o'clock games for your time zone, 10 and 1 here, 10 and 1:30 here, because I don't like when they play at night. They just don't seem to be, I don't know. There's something about them under the lights. I know everybody wants to do it, but the Bears, I bet if I went back and figured it out, which maybe I will for the next show, although I don't like looking at that kind of stuff, but because it's just a negative stat, you know what I mean? But under the lights, they don't play well, and they always do look disoriented, like they don't know what they're doing. So the next 6 games, there's a lot of hard teams in those games, but we're all during the day. So that is a good. Our next night game is in the week 8, if I'm right, and it's against Pittsburgh. So we'll see about that. So yeah, I'm real glad. And the other thing is that everybody in our division lost, which if the Bears won, you're up 1 game on everybody. So they lost no ground in their division, but they lost ground with their fans, didn't they? Yeah. And maybe some of their coaches and some of their players are lost confidence in the coaches, Nagy. And it's always a glorious day when Green Bay loses. I'm sorry, Darren and Graceland, but I got to say it. And they not only lose, they got creamed, and Rodgers got benched. It couldn't have been a better day. And I said, well, it would have been if the Bears won. Then it would have been a red letter day in the football house of Lynn. And let's talk Chicago Bears. And I was at my son's, and it was hard. He's young, he's in his early 30s, and he's a true Bears fan, like me. And I see me and him now, where I got, the next day I was depressed. Now it doesn't bother me as much. I'm older. You pick your battles, you know what you mean. Don't get me wrong. I want the Bears to win every week, but I can look at it differently. I don't have the emotions I did when I was younger. Oh, God. I used to work with this guy. Actually, even later, but when I was younger, and he hated Mondays when the Bears lost because he said, you were so crabby. And we worked in a small office together. And he was like, it was brutal. And even later, when I was still working in an office, one of my good buddies, my work son, said, it was fun on Mondays sometimes, and sometimes it wasn't, because you and this other guy, Ed, would go back and forth all day. And if they lost, you just bitch about it, and that's all we heard all day. And he goes, it would drive me crazy. So, yeah, I was very passionate my day, and I'm still passionate. But, it's week 1, though. So I'm going to pull back, everybody, and say, let's take a deep breath. If the Bears can, figure out what the hell the defense was doing and what game they were playing last night, what team they were playing, maybe we can turn this thing around. Fields, I don't think you're going to see any more than you saw him last night, although I don't know about Cincinnati's defense, so I'm not real sure. So we're going to talk about that on Friday. So but they're not going to throw him into the Wolves. I mean, really think about last night and how that pocket was collapsing all the time. And you guys are all probably saying, but he can run and Andy can't. Yes, but you don't know what could happen. If somebody gets him, he tweaks something, I'm just not sure he's quite ready. I want to see him be our franchise quarterback for the future like everybody else. But I'm trying to tell y'all, pump the brakes a little bit. Let's take it week to week. We'll know when it's time, as the coaching staff will. I just, again, going to circle back around. Nagy worries me. That's why I think that if the Bears don't have a winning season, he's fired. This is his last year of his contract. Which will be fine by me, because we were saying last night when we were looking at Sean McVay, the coach for the Rams, my son pointed out, he goes, now there's a good coach. That is a football coach. And you know what? He was right. He brought Stafford over, 32 years old, been in the league 10 years or more, and he looked like he was 22 last night. He really did. I think he even ran the ball a couple times. What? Although I got to tell you real quick, I was watching the Pittsburgh Bills game yesterday, and Ben Roethlisberger, he's like, 38, 39, and, he's been beat to crap his whole career. He actually had to take off and run on this one series, and the announcers were even laughing, as I was, because this 21-year-old is chasing this guy, and and he was just like all tired out, and you would have thought he got 10 yards. He got 3. It was pretty funny. But with Stafford, impressive. And you know what? McVay has a lot to do with it. He knew what he was doing, because everybody's always said Stafford was better than Detroit. He just didn't have the tools around him. So that's, what can you say? One game in the book. We have 16 more to go. It's a long season. And because it's on my next show, I think I'm going to start a new segment on how I will call a turnover, interception, or penalty, by the refs. So I'm going to do that starting Friday. You know what I mean? Like, first down, so I'll do some funny ones and stuff like that, and kind of imitate the refs. But, so, you know what? I'm sorry. It sucks. They sucked. But you're Bears fans. And we need to stick together. And maybe we can pull the Bears stick together. Although Nagy's press conference was blah, 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 the same old bullshit. But he did say one thing that I liked, and he said, this team is together. They really like each other, and they believe in it. So let's hope they look at that film and go, who the crap was that out there last night? Because it wasn't us. So maybe, it's happened. You know what? Teams have turned it around. So let's be positive, at least for the next 3 to 4 games. Let's give them the first quarter and see what they do. How's that? Sound good to you? And then you keep coming back to my show, because if the Bears suck, then you don't even want to watch about Bears. But, just keep coming back. I think I've lost some people along the way. My subscribers are still at 201, which is pathetic for most people. Not me. I'm good with it. But I don't seem to have as many watchers right now, which concerns me a little bit. So where are you all? And why are you not watching me? I mean, come on. Hottest old lady on YouTube. Yeah, baby. Listen. So everybody, you have a good week. I will see you guys on Friday. We will talk about the Cincinnati game that I think is at home. And, I'll get all the stats. We'll talk about it, and we'll see where our injuries are. I do know that those 2 offensive linemen were hurt. I don't believe anybody else was hurt in last night's game, which we hope not. And we really pray we get Eddie Goldman back, because we desperately need him. I mean, we don't need him to come back after missing a whole year with COVID last year just to be sitting on the sidelines. That isn't helping, right? And we got to get this offensive line problem. 2 big problems, offensive line, defense. So you guys and the coaches better work their asses off this week and get their heads on straight and turn this around. That's all I'm saying. Well, I'm sure it's not all I'm going to say, because, I never stop talking. But love you guys. Keep watching. We're going to get through this together. And be kind to someone today. Smile at someone, mask or not. They'll know you're smiling because they can see it by your eyes. Because when I'm out, because we're back in masks everywhere here, and I say, people go, "Oh, I can always tell you're smiling because your eyes light up," and they can see that, and you can make somebody's day. They might not be having a good day. They could be a Bears fan, and if you smile at them, that might make them feel better. So, love you guys, and I will see you Friday. And as always, keep on rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby. Bye-bye.